next speaker i- is a dear friend and someone who I deeply admire. She has dedicated her life and the majority of her efforts to helping people who stutter. It is her life, it's her purpose, it's her mission to help us. I am beyond deeply honored to welcome Jane Fraser to StutterFest, StutterFest 2025. Jane, thank you for sharing your valuable time with us, and we really look forward to your presentation today. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Tom. Well, my time isn't any more valuable than everyone I've heard this morning. I really excited that I was able to tune in and hear Abdul um, and Johannes. And one of the things that Johannes said that really struck a chord with me, and that would have struck a chord with my father were he with us, and perhaps he is in a way, was keep moving forward. That's really good advice for all of us. So so keeping in line with keeping moving forward, I'm going to try to share my screen. Um, I really, coming after Johannes and Abdul, uh, this is kind of not nearly as exciting as being in Africa for a half hour, and I do hope someday I'll be able to visit those countries. But anyway, this is our 78th year, and so that's why there's that plus sign. We didn't want to redesign a logo every time. And, so now I'm gonna have to try to see if I can move the screen down. Let's see. So I've been told, yeah, there it goes. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a training workshop at Boston University. I'm just focusing on what's happening in 2025 here. 22 participants from 8 countries to attend the workshop at Boston University first week in June. So really excited about that. 3 of the people from the Michael Palin Center will be talking about cognitive behavior therapy. And we've heard this morning already, people are using cognitive behavior therapy. They may not use that term to describe it, but in fact, entering these situations that are difficult, keep moving forward, all those things kind of go together. And so some of the past participants have been from Africa, thank goodness. We had a young woman apply this year. She's having trouble getting her visa from Ghana. And so we've offered her 2026. Um, so sometimes getting to the country, we always tell everybody get a tourist visa. If you make a mistake and say that you're coming on business, you'll never get a visa, but come in as a tourist. So we're excited to welcome uh, people from 8 countries and 22 people that will spend a full week learning about stuttering. One of the first On the first day, everyone at the conference is to go out and stutter on purpose in as many situations as possible and come back and report to the group the next day. And on occasion, there are those who say, I don't have the courage to do it. So I think I always like to focus on how difficult this is for people who are fluent, how difficult it, sometimes, and sometimes many people who are fluent have trouble standing up talking publicly. It's one of the things that's feared the most. So, and also, let me say too that the job interview situation is everybody's nightmare. And so when you think about how difficult that is for someone who stutters, obviously it's a nightmare, but it is actually a nightmare for everyone. And it's also hard for the person who's interviewing. Um, I've always been extremely uncomfortable interviewing people, and it had nothing to do with whether they stuttered or not. So the norm bring looking at that, how normal all those things are, I think is important to normalize stuttering. All right, now we're gonna talking about something really exciting. Um, Tom is the star of our latest film, not the latest. Our as some of you know out there, my dad spent many years writing a self-therapy book, and, he was not always treated nicely as he did that. Um, and everybody kind of said, you know, why do you need self-therapy?" But I think, Dr. Van Riper, and I'm assuming the audience is familiar with Charles Van Riper, was very, very a severe stutterer. But he came to Dad and said, "I think it's a great idea, Malcolm. We all need self-therapy. In fact, it's the basis of everything we do." And so, um, Dr. Van Riper did help my father. Joe Sheehan came to Memphis for a week and also, um, talked a lot about avoidance reduction. So there's a lot in the self-therapy book that, that's good advice for all of us, as a matter of fact. Learning to move forward, maintaining eye contact. It's one of the first things I remember my father saying to me is, "Look 'em in the eye, Jane." So all of the advice in that book is just down to earth communication, how to be a good communicator, learning to use pauses. Recently, I've been working locally in politics, and I realize how important silence is, how important pauses are in forcing your audience to listen to you. So, what you may think of as a handicap is, in fact, like Winston Churchill used, you use those pauses, learn to use them effectively to be a good speaker. Um, I recently suggested to a local person that if she spoke slowly, she would do a better job. She was so insulted by my advice that she hasn't spoken to me since. And I was trying, she was not at all a person who stutters, but she knew she only had 5 minutes to make her presentation. And so she rushed through it. And so I understand speeches from her again in 2025. The way you speak is very personal, um, to everyone, not just to those who stutter. So again, we're really excited about this film. We have offered it to the 16,000 libraries across the United States and Canada that shelve our materials. And as of this week, already 105 do have the film shelved. So everybody in the country is gonna have the opportunity to see Tom. Tom, do you have any comments about that?
Well, when we first talked about it, I had mixed feelings about it because I had to go back to like 40 years ago, and I had to go back to that place I was in my stuttering. And, and I in my reservation was, well, what if I can't pull it back in? What if I can't get to the place that I am now if I go back? And maybe, and I just realized when you were talking about the people in the workshop going out to voluntarily stutter, I wonder if that's what some people are afraid of also, that if they get to a certain point in life where they have their self-therapy, that they manage their stutter in a way that's comfortable to them. Well, if they go back and they do real stuttering, will they bring all that back up and are they able to cross that threshold back and forth? But I found through this experience that I can go back and forth in that threshold. So the stuttering that you see in the film is actually my real stutter. It's not I'm not pseudo stuttering, I'm not fake stuttering. I went back to the place where I actually stutter. And I learned more about myself through that experience. I am internally grateful to participate.
Well, that's wonderful, and like you said, the knowledge that you could pull out of it. I know years ago, Ted Peters said that for him, the voluntary stuttering was the most powerful tool. So over the years, and of course, like you said, I've been around for a while. Over the years, I think that one of the things that is the most striking, and we're seeing it in 2025, is that one size just doesn't fit all. And, I've heard it all. And in the old days, I mean, from about 1984 through probably 1994, I answered the 800 phone every day, all day. And so I heard everyone's stories. And of course, I always laugh because at 4:55, just when I was ready to sock it in for the day, I would get a call from someone who said, "Let me tell you how I've cured my stuttering." And the conversation would last an hour. But over those years, and I don't know why it always seemed to be right at closing time, but over the years, hearing all those stories and, made me realize the many ways in which different people are affected and how different people gain that confidence um, to keep moving forward. It's easy to say, but it's very hard to do. It's very hard to like go out and voluntarily stutter it for even for people who know that that's not going to be a problem later. So I think that one of the things that I am always afraid of with the young therapists in the schools is that they don't realize how difficult that is. And so it's easy to give advice, but put yourself in the shoes of the people that you're advising. That's a whole nother it's a whole nother ball game. I see that Ryan is there and then talking about ball games and sports and things. A lot of sports analogies, self therapies. You're out there shooting baskets all day. You want to be the best basketball player in the world. If you have a coach, you may become even better. This is the important role of if you've got a competent speech therapist in your area, then that's marvelous because then you go from being a good basketball player shooting those baskets all day to being superb because you've also got that person is your cheerleader, that person can help you. And so you know, just because self-therapy is important doesn't mean that if you have a competent therapist working with you, that person can't push you, be there for you, and the same would be true for the support group. You know, you've had a bad week, um, then those people will have ideas of how you can push beyond that place. So I feel like this is really it's a turning point for us. We're really excited, and we are eternally grateful to Tom for being willing to go back to that place where you don't want to go. Um, because you're not sure you'll ever get back to where you were before. That's true with all of us in a lot of situations. So again, what seems unique for stuttering is not necessarily, and one size doesn't fit all. So I'm going to kind of throw fire ahead because I don't have a whole lot of time left. We got new graphics on the website just to try to make it easier for people to find what they're looking for. Trouble at recess, it's like trouble in the workplace, same thing. You get teased, you get bullied. Expanded news section, we're trying to make the website a little bit easier to navigate. This is interesting for us, perhaps not so much for the audience, but we get about 5 million hits a month. And so we've looked into where those hits are coming from. I'm not sure why Singapore is in the Netherlands and United Kingdom and China. Um, But anyway, you'll see that we are trying to reach people, and that actually, the desktop is still the way that we're reaching the most people. Podcast, I don't know if any of you have listened to our podcast, but it's reaches people throughout the world, and, it's free. That's one of the best things about it. The virtual learning, construing relapse and stuttering. Um, relapse, a whole 'nother topic. I think we all relapse, regardless of whether it's stuttering, whether it's, um, entering in situations. Um, it's, it's anyway, the virtual learning, we do 1 a month, and anybody can tune in from anywhere in the world, and it is free. So check the website for that. We do send out notices, and, um and the audiobooks are a new feature for us this year. Magazine public service ads, I know there's been a lot of discussion lately about awareness. We sent out our first public service ads to magazines in the 1980s, and since then, we've been featured in more than 500 magazines. AARP is one of them, Association of Retired Persons. Their circulation is 22 million. So every time even we get a little 2 centimeter ad in the retired people's, magazine, we're reaching 22 million. So, because they're retired, a lot of them are grandparents, they're great-grandparents, but, we're really excited to reach them. And so this is another way that we reach people. There's an ad right there. What's the big deal? So it says, there's only 1% of the population stutter. Hey, wait a minute, that's 80 million people. So that's a fun public service ad. This is a picture of the libraries. So we're in 16,466 libraries. The reason for that is before the internet, this was the only way that we could reach people free. We wanted to make sure that anyone who stuttered had had, the option of getting our materials. We didn't we never wanted to charge for our materials, but what we also realize is if people don't pay, then they don't appreciate it as much. And we learned that from Melvin Powers, a publisher out in California. He said to my father, "Malcolm, you need to charge more for your book so that people will appreciate it. If you give it away, if you don't copyright it, they're not going to understand how valuable it is." And so it was not self-therapy was not copyrighted in its first year, and Melvin Powers printed it and sold it for $10 and distributed a lot more copies than my father did. So so when I came along, I put the copyright on it. Also, I didn't want people taking part of it, and I did think that it should be intact and copyrighted, and in fact, it has reached more people that way. And now as you next week, the film that Tom is in is gonna be offered free during the entire National Stuttering Awareness Week. So I hope you will take advantage of that. Newsletters, kids' letters, teen awareness package, and I end up on one person can and did make a difference. It and I've already heard this morning in Africa that it's happening. The ability to create excitement gonna get going in Botswana and, throughout Africa. So I'm looking forward to spending the day with you, and I will hope that I can stop the share. There we go. Got it stopped. Thank you for listening to me this morning. I appreciate it.
Jay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much again for allowing me to speak. I appreciate it.